Welcome to the Human Being Store, and thank you for joining us for Human Being 101, where we explore what it means to be both human and being in the world. I'm Maria Pritchard, Director of Guidance and Operations.
And I'm Kathleen Schaefer, the founder and CEO.
And we are here today to talk about something that's a really exciting component of this work, which is when we begin to work with others.
Right. Well, at some point after we do the work on ourselves to, get our gift and begin to work on understanding who we are authentically, what we want to contribute, how we align to that contribution and cultivate our leadership skills, well, then we get to have the fun of walking in the world. And the first way that we all do that is to create teams, right? Nothing happens alone, and leadership is by its very nature something that we do in connection with others. And those teams are vital and important to our work.
And at the Human Being Store, we support organizations by giving people their gift and walking them through this model. And it's really powerful when a team comes together who have all received their gift and are connected to this work. But also there are people who do this work and they may be the only person on their team who is living in this new model and new way of seeing the world. And what does that really shift for people?
Well, I think that anytime any one of us shifts, any one of us moves into our gift, into our leadership, it changes everything around us.
Right.
And so often in organizations, people feel powerless to create change. They're not happy with, the way the organization is working, with people on their team. There may be conflict, whatever it is. And they think, well, I can't do anything about it because I'm not in a position of leadership, or I'm not the CEO or the president of the organization. And yet, true leadership happens moment by moment as we go through our days, and that as each one of us begins to shift and change how we show up, it has to, by virtue of the shift and change in us, change the nature of that relationship, and it filters out. And that's what we talk about a lot, is that there's kind of two ways that you can create teams. One is that if you are not in a position of leadership, is that through your leadership you show up differently, and then things on the team change. And then if you do have the option or opportunity at some point to be able to create culture and intention with the team, going through a process like this, even in the beginning, can make a big difference to how people work together and the quality of what it is that you create.
I think this is a great opportunity to talk to our listeners about the distinction between positional leadership and leadership as we speak about it. I know that was a really impactful conversation for me, and something that has informed the way I look at organizations and the way that I look at my contribution in an organization.
Right. Well, so many people, again, if they are not the stated leader of the team, if they are not the person who is, again, the manager, the executive director, the CEO, whatever it is, they feel like they don't have any control. And as soon as we feel that we don't have any control, that we don't have any power, we get pretty miserable, because we all want to be choosing, what is happening and what is real for us. And when you adopt this model of leadership, when you know and understand your gift and you consciously choose to show up and use it, what you do is you shift that power dynamic. And just because you are not the person in the position of authority doesn't mean that you can't radically shift and have an impact on the quality of team. And, one of the ways that we've talked about that a lot is by even just showing up and being clearer in the expression of your gift, you just allow other people, whether they've been to the Human Being Store or not, to begin to see that as an option for themselves, and to even begin to express themselves differently as a result.
And what we are really suggesting to people is that you lead regardless of what position you are in an organization. And what you just said about when we really step up to that leadership, we empower others with the opportunity to do the same. And it is so impactful to see the way that others, really, we can only change our own behavior, right?
That's the only thing we can control, right?
Right. Yep. That's where it starts. And often we get so focused on wanting, especially me and maybe others who have similar personality types, really get focused on how I want to control others. I want to control the scenario. I want everything to, line up the way I see it. And the beauty is that when I stop trying to control others and I just work on me, then actually more of what I want to happen happens. And also, if things are out of alignment and it's not going to work, I see that faster and I'm able to pivot and move toward what is working.
All right. Well, you just nailed what most of us do. It's always easier to look around at other people and figure out what they're doing wrong than it is to look at ourselves and figure out how we can show up differently. And again, the difference is positional authority or not, we can't control anybody else. I mean, even if you're the boss or the manager or the leader, you can't control whether somebody shows up and is upset or angry or feels like they're not being heard or they're not being valued. I mean, that's their choice.
Right.
And when you feel like you have to control everyone else in order to be successful, you're going to fail. So when we start to shift, the way to look at creating effective teams to first and foremost, you having to show up and be at your best. And when something does come up that you have to look at how you're showing up, then like you just said, all of a sudden it changes the very nature of how you're looking at others, because when you are really focused on your connection, that's what you offer to other people, is to focus on the best of who they are instead of, what they're not.
And that's really where strong teams come from, is being really clear about who I am, what I offer, really the first 3 steps of the model. And then looking at the team and looking at other people's strengths and how do we create complementary partnerships and collaborations and really bring the puzzle pieces together so that everyone on the team is getting to express the uniqueness of who they are in a way that serves our shared purpose.
And isn't that what we all want? Is that as we feel good about ourselves, we extend that opportunity to others. We want other people who are connected to themselves to show up and play together and work together and be together, because it's more fun, right? I mean, that's the beauty of the human being store. It's what we offer here is that shorthand to getting everybody into a space where we're all wanting the same quality, high quality of experience, because that's how we get to the results that we want and the impact that we desire.
And I will just say from my own experience, one of the things that we do differently as a company is that everyone who is offering this work is practicing this work. So as a guide myself, I continuously show up to the store and work with others and continue to evolve my own practice. And one of the hardest lessons for me has been that, wanting to control others, wanting to control outcomes. And I've personally learned that underneath that is the fear of trust. And that when I do not trust myself, then I want to control others. And what I really want is for others to step up. But I prohibit that from happening by trying to control them. And so one of the hardest things for me has been to relinquish that control, to step into trust, take my hands off the wheel and just let go. And the insane, beautiful thing that happens is that people do the thing I wanted them to do all along. And it's like I was the one who was blocking that from happening through my own fear and control. And when we really let go and let people grow into that space, they have the freedom to become who we want them to be, who they were meant to be, and
who they choose to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, but I mean, you just described the beauty of how working with other people happens when we go to this model, is because you go to the one thing you can control, which is you. And that if we look at effective teams, if something isn't working in your team, if you're not happy with the people in your office or like your colleagues, the first question is, where is that showing up for you? Where are you not happy with you? Do you not feel like you're always at your best? Are you waiting for somebody else to show up at their best so that you can do it? I mean, we play these games with ourselves all the time. And essentially it all comes back to, are you showing up connected to who you are and offering it in a clear way to other people? And if there's an issue, if there's a challenge, if there's a struggle in your team, the answer will come back to how you need to shift in order to do that for yourself. And once you do, as you said, you unlock that for everyone else. Now, not everyone's necessarily going to choose to do it in the same way, but at least then you know that your engagement is coming from you being at your best and not holding back, waiting for somebody else to be at their best.
Right. And I think we guide a lot of clients through that here at the
Absolutely.
Human Being Store. And the outgrowth of that is that people really do get to explore all potential options, and they really get to show up in their wholeness, show up at their best, explore, how the organization shifts and responds, and whether there is a path forward there or not. And people get really clear instead of, like you said, being stuck in that place of just not knowing and being unhappy.
All right. Well, and at its essence, when we're looking around at other people to shift and change, we've actually given away our power to them.
Yeah.
And many, 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 many people in organizations, that is exactly where they're at, is they're upset with other people not showing up at their best. And they're waiting for others to do that instead of saying, wait a second, how do I show up at my best? And then I see what happens. Sometimes you're met, great, things shift and change. Sometimes you're not. And then you know that it's time to change and move on. But you're going to do it from a place of connection to your gift rather than waiting to offer it until other things outside of you change.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to get into our guest interview, someone who works with a lot of teams, and we are excited to hear her story about her gift.
Yep, and she's going to tell us about a lot of amazing people with whom she works, so stay tuned.
Thanks.
Welcome back to the part of the podcast where we interview people about their gift and about how they're using it in their lives. And today we're very excited to have Ellie Ryder with us, who is with Youth Inc., one of the practicum partners we have at the Human Being Store. And Ellie has gone through the practicum and was actually in our very first class that went through that. So welcome, Ellie. We're happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, good. Well, why don't we begin by just sharing a little bit about you and You Think and how you came to get involved with this crazy thing called the Human Being Store.
Sure. You Think is a venture philanthropy organization, and we partner with youth development nonprofits in New York City to build their capacity. And we do this primarily through technical assistance programs. We train them on fundraising and governance and impact evaluation. We do have a small capacity building cash grant as well for organizations that have been with us for at least a year. They can apply. And I manage our governance and leadership programs there. And I should say leadership has recently been added to that title because we were starting to realize that we were great at providing content and tools and exemplary practice, but we were digging a bit deeper into why our programs weren't necessarily having as long-term of an impact as we were hoping. And we really realized a lot of the times the differentiating factor is the people. So who is in place? When we have strong executive directors and board chairs in place, they have a strong partnership, they are able to really institutionalize the frameworks that we train them on. And our trainings are long. We acknowledge that behavior change takes a significant amount of time. So our governance training program that I lead is 15 months long. And that sounds like a tremendous amount of time at the beginning, I think, when you're signing up for it. But when you're actually trying to start to shift culture and the way that folks do things, it's really not that much time. So what we wanted to do was, instead of kind of developing a separate leadership, really people-focused program, was to start integrating what we thought were really exciting, interesting, kind of cutting-edge, innovative leadership practices that were happening. So that was the discussion we were having internally. And then that's when my executive director introduced me to you, Kathleen. And she'd done some work with you, some coaching work with you. And And she said, and I think it was really dovetailing at a great time because that's when you were kicking off the practicum. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, you were in that first group.
Exactly. So we thought there would be sort of a twofold benefit from this experience. Not only would I be able to receive some coaching and really firsthand, build myself, but also then be able to carry that forward in the work that we were doing with our executive directors and board of directors.
Right, which is exactly what we want from this work, is that as individuals, learn and grow from it, then obviously, you take that out to the people around you. So tell us what happened when you got your gift and how it was with you.
I'm sure. Well, I
Not to
have
put
to
you on
say,
the spot or anything.
I didn't really know what to expect. I think my executive director and through my director of programs, who I was in more direct contact with about this opportunity, had given me a little sort of overview, but I really honestly had no idea what what it meant. But I was excited. I always love learning. I love training. I love coaching. So I was and the idea that I could work with you one to one, I thought was such a gift. So I was really excited, but I had no idea, and I think was a little naive, but in a good way going into the experience. And I remember filling out the sort of pre-experience questionnaire, which is great to sort of get you thinking about things. But some of the questions are really big picture questions. And so I was sort of a little bit sort of aligned with some ideas of where it would go. But so, and I have to say too, doing visualizations and things like that aren't really in my day to day. So I was excited about that experience. Okay, we're going to do a visualization. I'm going to get my gift, even though it was out of my sort of day-to-day comfort zone. And so in the experience of getting my gift, when you said gift, I was definitely in a point in my life where I opened the box to my gift and I was looking for what I want. Someone is giving a gift to me and I am excited. And what I saw was 100% what I want, what I want in my life. And so I opened the box and I saw, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, I saw 2 printed international plane tickets. And so it was a very physical, tangible, direct gift. And in my mind, this is a gift for me. This is what I want. Someone's going to give me this experience. And so, and what I love from there, so that's just the starting. So of course I'm excited because this is something that, on one hand, it's very simple and straightforward of what it is. Oh, great, Ellie wants to go on a trip. But as I did the work with Kathleen, we started to unpack so much more, which was so exciting, about what really international travel has meant to me, means to me, where it sits or doesn't sit in my life right now, why I'm so eager to have it in my life. And for me, I tend to think more sort of tangibly, so again, seeing something very clear, and saying, okay, I want to go on this trip. But I think what was sort of most exciting was kind of figuring out, your gift is your gift.
Yes, yay.
Which is that tends to be a kind of stunning moment. And especially if you're someone who likes to have answers, and say, okay, so what does she want me to say? Am I going to say the right answer? And I know it's really not meant to be that. And starting to say your gift is your gift and thinking, okay, well, how do what does international travel really mean to me? Let's go deeper. What are the emotions? What are the feelings? What's the gratification? What's the drive for that? How does that sit with me internally? And then how am I actually bringing that into my day to day?
Well, yeah, and that's the part that I'm really, curious, because you're right. Because, we talked a lot about what that means, not only for what you want to bring into your life, but what you offer to others, and how much that you take people on these journeys that are really life-changing for them. And you've now taken this human being store experience and having gone through the practicum are doing your own guidance. And you've now given gifts to many of the people going through your or one of your current leadership programs, correct?
Exactly. I have.
Well, and tell us about that and what that's been like for you and for them.
Sure. Well, I think it's been really interesting because again, it's different from how we traditionally have worked with our partners, at least sort of in an unofficial sense. We've had a sort of rote program which you go through, and we always customize it a bit to what's going on to each of our partners. So it's not just get on board and follow exactly what we do. We do sort of modify it, but to really go into this sort of next layer and say, we want to talk about you, what's going on with you, and how does that question and that answer impact everything else
Powerful.
that's going on in your organization. And that's okay, and in a good way. And with executive directors in particular, they have these incredibly challenging jobs where you're pulled in a million, you have to cover everything. You're pulled in a million different directions. Everyone wants your input on things. And you don't always have all the resources that you'd like, or it's a different way in which you sort of bring resources to your organization, and you're working constantly. And it's so hard to take a minute to stop all the noise and just really check in with yourself. And I think also a lot of there's this sort of misconception around leadership that we all have to be everything, especially when you're in that top role. But certainly as an executive director, you have to oversee all these different functions, which are super different. You have to manage people. You have to be a people person. You have to oversee the budget. You have to be a numbers person. You have to plan. You have to be good at planning. Crises happen. You have to be good at managing those crises. And so we take on this idea that, I have to be everything and be good at everything if I'm going to be able to do the job the way I want to do the job, or be good at my job, or for people to really see me as a leader. And so what I've loved about working with the Human Being Store and bringing that forward in our work is to be able to say, you are enough, with your areas of strength and with your areas where you're not as strong or you're not as naturally gifted, you are still enough. And with that, and knowing that, and uncovering this gift and talking about this gift, how do we use that to further your areas of strength, and also to manage, where you're not as strong. And it's okay to be not as strong. And there are things we can do to build up your team, to bring in different resources to help you in that position. Because if you're constantly thinking you have to be really great at everything, that you're eventually going to run yourself into the ground, and there are going to be blind spots, and it's going to be a much less sustainable proposition than really embracing kind of your gift where you are and bringing that into your leadership and having that really shape how you run your organization.
Wow. I couldn't have said that any better, especially with everything we've been talking about today with creating teams. And see, your gift is shining through, Ellie, about how you help people see that journey in a very different way. So we're really excited that you were able to share your gift with us here today. And I'd like people to know that Ellie is a guide at the Human Being Store as well. So we're really happy to have her on our team and to be offering her gift to the world through us as well as you think. So thank you so much, Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, what another powerful conversation with Ellie today.
I love Ellie.
Yeah, we all love Ellie.
Yeah.
I just loved what she talked about with the executive directors, and that you don't have to be everything. And isn't that the power of creating teams in the Human Being Store way, is that we all get to be at our best and then collaborate with people who have different talent, strengths, and skills with us that complement us so that we can create a whole system.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what's fun. do we want to be doing things we don't enjoy or don't like as much? Or do we want to do what we love to do and work with other people who are doing what they love to do together to do and be and create something beyond what we could ever imagine? That's what people love. And you're absolutely right. For so many people in these positions of leadership, especially executive directors in the nonprofit realm, but anybody who's at the heads of organizations, there is the sense that they have to do all and be all. And that's really a recipe for burnout as opposed to a recipe for leadership and success.
And one of the reasons we love Ellie so much is that she really does come from a very human background, and she acknowledges that. And, what she shared at the end there was just so powerful in that you can see how she has embraced this being experience that is more intangible, it is more vulnerable, it is more emotional and soft. And she has not only embraced it for herself, but she has yielded it as a powerful tool for change in these organizations who too tend to be on the human side. And she's really showing them that the integration of this, more vulnerable quality is the power that they're ultimately seeking.
Absolutely. And I even, like to shift, because sometimes we think about vulnerable as being, weak or defenseless. Shifting that word even a little bit to openness, right? Again, when we're open, when we're clear, when we're unapologetic about who we are, that's powerful. It's the hiding or the, trying to move away from that which we think we're not, that becomes, a weakening proposition. So you're absolutely right. I mean, here she is in the heart of New York, working with people who are dealing with, youth and with some of the toughest challenges facing young people in that community. And they are reimagining and reinventing how they are leading as a result of understanding their gift. And that impact is rippling out through the people, that they're working with on a day-to-day basis and their staff, and ultimately to those, that they serve. And that's what this work is about, right? Better people, better work, better world.
Absolutely. And I know the nonprofit world and social impact is so near and dear to both of our hearts. And to any nonprofit organizations out there who are curious about this work, please reach out to us, because we really do want to reach that community, and we know how hard nonprofits work and that they need this support, and we're here to provide that.
Right. And it's through this type of work that they're really able to get into a flow that moves them out of that struggle and into a much more powerful position, both as an organization and as a community impact.
Absolutely. So thank you again for joining us here at the Human Being Store. This has been Human Being 101. Tune in next time.
Thank you.